Hi, I'm Janae Castell, one of the correspondents for the Around the Valuation World show. I'm here with Darrell Dorrell, who is a stalwart in the financial forensics industry. He's written prolifically for books and also for the U.S. government, and has just done a great presentation on the financial forensics, forensic accounting methodology. Now, Darrell, one of the things that you talked about, which is a part of your methodology, is the 5 elements of data analysis. And on my notes here, I wrote down that that's composition, boundaries, central tendencies, dispersion, dynamics. Why don't you tell people listening what exactly this is, how this applies to the methodology, any good tidbits and takeaways that you can think of for our listeners here?
I'll do my best, Janae, and thanks for introducing me. I've never been referred to as a stalwart before, but I'll do my best. Those 5 elements, those reflect everything necessary for someone, an analyst, say, with your expertise, to analyze typically financials, although it's not just limited to financials. But the first element, as you pointed out, is composition. Now, the way to start that out is whatever your data set comprises, it's merely the composition of that data set. So as you look at it, whether it's 50 records or 8 million, you get a sense for what's the universe of what we're starting to explore.
Okay. So what is the data composed of? Okay.
Yes.
Now on the boundaries, what is that? Address that a little bit.
Yes, that's actually the second step. So once you get to composition, you have these 8 million lines of data, whatever they are, inventory records, any sort of telephone records. The second one you're referring to, the boundaries, says then, okay, with this universe of data, what boundaries do I have? Do they range from here to here? Do they range from here to here? But trying to get some sense of the boundaries. And within each of these, they then quantify to start to box in those elements of data.
Okay, and then within that, the central tendencies and the dispersion just gives you a little bit more statistics, a little bit more idea of what's going on within the data, within those boundaries. Is that fair enough?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Effectively, what you're doing is a hierarchy. Composition first, boundary second, so you're boxing in the data to understand it. And then, as you indicated, the centrality of things, which is typically going to be things like means, medians, geometric means, harmonic means, and other elements. So you're getting a picture, a sense of that data that you start before you even start analyzing it.
Okay, great. And the last one, dynamics. What is that?
Well, actually, dispersion would be the next one after centrality. And once you've looked at the things like centrality, now you've got a measure of central points within your data. The dynamic says, or the dispersion says, basically, how dispersed is this data? Is it fairly narrow? Is it fairly broad? Are there nominal extremes that tend to affect the overall measurements or not? So that's an element of analysis also.
Great. Now the second D, that dynamics. I want to know, what is this, Darrell?
That is critical. That's critical. What you've done as you're going through this 5-step process is really getting an understanding of the data. The dynamics tells you then the movement of the data.
Okay.
That's both within and among the other elements of data, so that now with those 5 composition elements, you've got complete understanding of everything, whether it's inventory records or whether it's stock prices, it doesn't matter. You now truly understand every element of it.
Okay. Now, the next thing that you talked about had to do with documents and examining documents. You mentioned 2 terms, QDE and FAB. And QDE, am I right, questioned document examination.
Good.
Is that correct? All right.
Yes.
And then the second one was fake, altered, or borrowed. Okay.
Correct.
But you mentioned that using QDE and FAB, that there was a benefit to using that with attorneys and in the courtroom. What is that benefit?
Great question. The references you mentioned, QDE and FAB, F-A-B, gives you basically a framework by which you say you've looked at these documents and you've applied principles such as question document examination. It's a structured approach, so when I get documents, I'm just not throwing them up and guessing how they fall, but you're actually looking at a structured approach to methodically dissect it and in order to understand it. The FAB, the fake, altered, borrowed, are other techniques to help you identify whatever you're given, even if it's supposedly straight from the client or the source, to assess and evaluate, are those really representative? And can we then indeed analyze them and rely on them?
Great. Well, one of the takeaways that attendees mentioned was to trust no one and to not accept the documents, right? So, I mean, we say it tongue in cheek, but honestly, to have some professional skepticism. Any one last quick point in regards to trust no one and having your professional skepticism?
Yeah, I would add to that. The phraseology trust yet verify is critical, but to do that, you must have a methodology by which to analyze.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you so much for joining us, Darrell.
Thanks much. Appreciate it.